Hello,
Hello.
everyone. Robin was just saying that she felt like her light was a little bit blue. I personally have been feeling blue for months now.
Yay.
Also, as a heads up, I will be eating a waffle during this episode.
They will be eating a waffle, and I will be reading. I found my copy.
Nice. So we're at the Ring Goes South, start of the chapter.
The ring goes.
Yep. I'm gonna mute my chewing.
Later that. Okay, mute the chewing. Do. Mute the chewing. Later that day, the hobbits held a meeting of their own in Bilbo's room. Merry and Pippin were indignant when they heard that Sam had crept into the council and had been chosen as Frodo's companion. "It's most unfair," said Pippin. "Instead of throwing him out and clapping him in chains, Elrond goes and rewards him for his cheek." "Rewards," said Frodo. "I can't imagine a more severe punishment. You're not thinking what you are saying. Condemned to go on this hopeless journey, a reward? Yesterday I dreamed that my task was done and I could rest here a long while, perhaps for good." Whine. "I don't wonder," said Mary, "and I wish you could. But we are envying Sam, not you. If you have to go, then it will be a punishment for any of us to be left behind, even in Rivendell. We have come a long way with you and been through some stiff times. We want to go on." "That's what I meant," said Pippin. "We hobbits ought to stick together, and we will. I shall go unless they chain me up. There must be someone with intelligence in the party." "Then you certainly will not be chosen, Peregrine Took," said Gandalf, looking in through the window. "Eavesdrop!"
Mean.
Mean, right? Which was near the ground. "But you are all worrying yourselves unnecessarily. Nothing is decided yet." "Nothing decided?" cried Pippin. "Then what were you all doing? You were shut up for hours." "Talking," said Bilbo. "There was a deal of talk, and everyone had an eye-opener. Even old Gandalf. I think Legolas's bit of news about Gollum caught even him on the hop, though he passed it off." "You are wrong," said Gandalf. "You were inattentive. I had already heard of it from Gwaihir. If you want to know, the only real eye-openers, as you put it, were you and Frodo, and I was the only one that was not surprised."
I am never surprised. I know all the things because I'm Gandalf and I know many things.
"I know many things."
And I'm not going to tell you any.
"No, but I will hint at them." "Well, anyway," said Bilbo, who was well used to Gandalf and doesn't rise to the bait, "nothing was decided beyond choosing poor Frodo and Sam. I was afraid all the time that it might come to that if I was let off. But if you ask me, Elrond will send out a fair number when the reports come in. Have they started yet, Gandalf?" "Yes," said the wizard. "Some of the scouts have been sent out already. More will go tomorrow. Elrond is sending elves, and they will get in touch with the rangers, and maybe with Thranduil's folk in Mirkwood. And Aragorn has gone with Elrond's sons. We shall have to scour the lands all round for many long leagues before any move is made. So cheer up, Frodo. You will probably make quite a long stay here." "Ah," said Sam gloomily. "We'll just wait long enough for winter to come." Which is what they do, which is a little bullshit to me, but...
It's real dumb. You should not start a journey in winter. Did the Donner Party teach you nothing?
This predates the Donner Party. The Donner Party should have read this and been like, "No." "That can't be helped," said Bilbo. "It's your fault, partly, Frodo, my lad, insisting on waiting for my birthday. A funny way of honouring it, I can't help thinking. Not the day I should have chosen for letting the SBs into Back End. But there it is. You can't wait now till spring. You can't go till the reports come back. When winter first begins to bite and stones crack in the frosty night, when pools are black and trees are bare, 'tis evil in the wild to fare. That's what the Donner Party should have read.
Also,
But that
thanks for the encouragement, Bilbo.
but that I am afraid will be just your luck. It's such a random piece of poetry to quote. I wonder if it's a couplet of advice, or is it part of a longer poem, or what? I love it when they reference in-world shit that we never get an explanation of.
Or did Bilbo just make it up because he's like that?
Yeah, yeah. He's the world's first rap battle list.
I was thinking slam poet.
Slam poet, okay. Slam poets tend to prepare ahead of time, though, don't they? Whereas a rap battler has to be doing improv.
I guess. I suppose that now that you mention it. I just
Maybe he is the godfather of both art forms.
It's a weird mental image. I'm going back to my waffle.
I am afraid it will, said Gandalf. We can't start until we have found out about the riders. I thought they were all destroyed in the flood, said Merry. You cannot destroy ringwraiths like that, said Gandalf. The power of their master is in them, and they stand or fall by him. We hope that they were all unhorsed and unmasked, and so made for a while less dangerous, but we must find out for certain. In the meantime, you should try and forget your troubles, Frodo. I do not know if I can do anything to help you, but I will whisper this in your ears. Someone said that intelligence would be needed in the party. He was right. I think I shall come with you.
So first of all, that's a real douchey thing to say. But second of all, if I was Frodo, I'd be really happy to hear it.
So great was Frodo's delight at this announcement that Gandalf left the windowsill where he had been sitting and took off his hat and bowed. I only said I think I shall come. Do not count on anything yet. In this matter, Elrond will have much to say, and your friend the Strider. Which reminds me, I want to see Elrond. I must be off. How long do you think I shall have here? Said Frodo to Bilbo when Gandalf had gone. Oh, I don't know. I can't count days in Rivendell, said Bilbo. But quite long, I should think. We can have many a good talk. What about helping me with my book and making a start on the next? Have you thought of an ending? Yes, several, and all are dark and unpleasant, said Frodo. Oh, that won't do, said Bilbo. I so relate to Bilbo. Books ought to have good endings. How would this do? And they all settled down and lived together happily ever after. It will do well if it ever comes to that, said Frodo. Ah, said Sam. And where will they live? That's what I often wonder. For a while the hobbits continued to talk and think of the past journey and of the perils that lay ahead. But such was the virtue of the land of Rivendell that soon all fear and anxiety was lifted from their minds. The future, good or ill, was not forgotten, but ceased to have any power over the present.
They just put Xanax into the water.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's some good shit. Health and hope grew strong in them, and they were content with each good day as it came, taking pleasure in every meal and in every word and song. I have to imagine Frodo went ahead and hiked the mountain. He didn't mention, but I think he should.
What's that? Sorry, I was just about to go grab my knitting.
I sure hope Frodo hiked in the mountains like he wanted to.
I choose to believe he did. I'll be right back.
Me too. Okay. So the days slipped away as each morning dawned bright and fair, and each evening followed, cool and clear. But autumn was waning fast. Slowly the golden light faded to pale silver, and the lingering leaves fell from the naked trees. A wind began to blow chill from the misty mountains to the east. The hunter's moon waxed round in the night sky and put to flight all the lesser stars. But low in the south one star shone red. Every night as the moon waned again, it shone brighter and brighter. Frodo could see it from his window, deep in the heavens, burning like a watchful eye that glared above the trees on the brink of the valley. Dun dun dun!
Dun, dun, dun.
The hobbits had been nearly 2 months in the House of Elrond, which they totally skipped in the movie because it does dispel the urgency somewhat.
I mean, all of the timing in Fellowship dispels the urgency. Let's wait 17 years, then 6 more months, then 2 more months.
Yeah. Yep.
Come on,
And
guys.
November had gone by with the last shreds of autumn, and December was passing when the scouts began to return. Some had gone north beyond the springs of the Horwell into the Etten Moors, and others had gone west, and with the help of Aragorn and the Rangers had searched the lands far down the Grey Flood, as far as Tharbad, where the old North Road crossed the river by a ruined town. Many had gone east and south, and some of these had crossed the mountains and entered Mirkwood, while others had climbed the pass at the source of the Gladden River, and had come down into Wilderland and over the Gladden fields, and so at length had reached the old home of Radagast at Rosgobel. Radagast was not there, and they had returned over the high pass. That's it.
Yeah.
They went on. They crossed the mountains and the plains and the forest, and he wasn't home. So they came back.
I'm just going to say that Aragorn would be very pleased if someone in Middle-earth invented texting.
It reminds me of there's this old anecdote about Van Gogh where he was really, really socially awkward in all of the ways. He had all of the anxieties like piled up. And one time he spent 2 weeks or something hitchhiking to Paris to meet his hero. He loved the Impressionists. He wanted to be one of them. So he hitchhiked into Paris, except being too shy to ask for rides. Mainly he walked to Paris, and he got to the guy's house and he stood out in front of it for an hour, and then he lost his nerve and walked home.
That's very relatable.
And also very Tolkien. Like, well, he's not here. Anyway. And they had returned over the high pass that was called the Dimrill Stair. The sons of Elrond, Elladan and Elrohir, were the last to return. They had made a great journey, passing down the Silver Lode into a strange country, but of their errand they would not speak to any save to Elrond. In no region had the messengers discovered any signs or tidings of the riders or other servants of the enemy. Even from the eagles of the Misty Mountains they had learned no fresh news. Nothing had been seen or heard of Gollum, but the wild wolves were still gathering and were hunting again far up the great river. 3 of the black horses had been found at once, drowned in the flooded ford. On the rocks of the rapids below, searchers discovered the bodies of 5 more, and also a long black cloak slashed and tattered. Of the black riders no other trace was to be seen, and nowhere was their presence to be felt. It seemed that they had vanished from the north. So that would have been a really good 2 months to travel in, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Yeah, oops.
Whoopsie. Oh. 8 out of the 9 are accounted for, at least, said Gandalf. It is rash to be too sure, yet I think we may hope now that the ring wraiths were scattered, and have been obliged to return as best they could to their master in Mordor, empty and shapeless. If that is so, it will be some time before they can begin the hunt again. Of course, the enemy has other servants, but they will have to journey all the way to the borders of Rivendell before they can pick up our trail, and if we are careful, that will be hard to find. But we must delay no longer. Elrond summoned the hobbits to him. He looked gravely at Frodo. "The time has come," he said. "If the ring is to set out, it must go soon. But those who go with it must not count on their errand being aided by war or force. They must pass into the domain of the enemy far from aid. Do you still hold to your word, Frodo, that you will be the ring-bearer?" "I do," said Frodo. "I will go with Sam." "Then I cannot help you much, not even with counsel," said Elrond. "I can foresee very little of your road, and how your task is to be achieved, I do not know. The shadow has crept now to the feet of the mountains and draws nigh even to the borders of the Grey Flood, and under the shadow all is dark to me. You will meet many foes, some open and some disguised, and you may find friends upon your way when you least look for it. I will send out messages, such as I can contrive, to those whom I know in the wide world, but so perilous are the lands now become that some may well miscarry, or come no quicker than you yourself. And I will choose you companions to go with you, as far as they will or fortune allows. The number must be few, since your hope is in speed and secrecy. Had I a host of elves in armor of the elder days, it would avail little, save to arouse the power of Mordor. The company of the ring shall be 9, and the 9 walkers shall be set against the 9 riders that are evil. With you and your faithful servant, Gandalf will go, for this shall be his great task, and maybe the end of his labors." Are you hinting that he's going to die or retire?
I mean, is there a difference for a Maiar?
No. For the rest, they shall represent the other free peoples of the world, elves, dwarves, and men. Legolas shall be for the elves, and Gimli, son of Gloin, for the dwarves. They are willing to go at least to the passes of the mountains, and maybe beyond. For men you shall have Aragorn, son of Arathorn, for the ring of Isildur concerns him closely. "Strider!" cried Frodo. "Yes," he said with a smile. "I ask leave once again to be your companion, Frodo." "I would have begged you to come," said Frodo. "Only I thought you were going to Minas Tirith with Boromir." "I am," said Aragorn. "And the sword that was broken shall be reforged ere I set out to war. But your road and our road lie together for many hundreds of miles. Therefore Boromir will also be in the company. He is a valiant man." And in the book, that's the only quality he has. The only, like, he has no other personality traits. He's just valiant.
They did a good job casting Sean Bean. Sean Bean can make valiant, dumb people very relatable.
Right? In fact, of all the changes they made in the movies, the changes they made to Boromir are my favorites. The fact that they made him so likable that you really feel it when we lose him.
Yeah.
"There remain 2 more to be found," said Elrond. "These I will consider. Of my household I may find some that it seems good to me to send." "But that will leave no place for us," cried Pippin in dismay. "We don't want to be left behind. We want to go with Frodo." "That is because you do not understand and cannot imagine what lies ahead," said Frodo. "Neither does Frodo," said Gandalf, unexpectedly supporting Pippin, for the first and only time ever. "Nor do any of us see clearly. It is true that if these hobbits understood the danger, they would not dare to go, but they would still wish to go, or wish that they dared, and be shamed and unhappy. I think, Elrond, that in this matter it would be well to trust rather to their friendship than to great wisdom. Even if you chose for us an elf lord such as Glorfindel, he could not storm the dark tower nor open the road to the fire by the power that is in him. You speak gravely, said Elrond, but I am in doubt. The Shire, I forebode, is not free now from peril, and these two I had thought to send back there as messengers, to do what they could according to the fashion of their country, to warn the people of their danger. In any case, I judge that the younger of these two, Peregrine Took, should remain. My heart is against his going.
Because he's like a baby. That's the thing that I see a lot of like meta commentary. What?
It's child endangerment.
Well, I see a lot of meta commentary on that because it's like Pippin is actually like 18, like he's super young.
Yep. Yeah. But it is kind of jackass of Elrond to be like, well, maybe one of them.
Oh yeah,
no, you're
totally.
not getting it. You don't get how this works. Might be fun to discuss what would have happened if a couple of elf lords had gone along instead.
I wonder.
There would have been no uprising of the trees. They would not have happened. That would never have happened without Merry and Pippin. Which means that the battle at Helm's Deep would probably have ended up being. Well, they would have won, but then there would still be several thousand orcs running back to Saruman.
Yeah, they would have won, but then they would have still had to defeat Isengard before Rohan could be saved. So Rohan couldn't have come to the aid of Minas Tirith because they would have been busy fighting Saruman.
Yep, because there would have been an extra battle right up in there in Isengard.
Mm-hmm.
And we would have lost a lot more Ents. If whatever the survivors of Helm's Deep were, like 6,000 orcs, had come upon the Ents while they were destroying Saruman's stronghold, they would have set upon them, and we would have ended up with a lot more dead Ents.
Well, but they wouldn't have been destroying Saruman's stronghold, right? They would have just been sleeping.
Right.
They would have had 5 or 6,000 orcs.
You're right.
Running through, torching the woods behind them. And by the time the Ents realized what was happening, it would have been too late.
That would have been some shit. Yeah. Damn.
So it's a good thing that they sent Merry and Pippin.
Absolutely. Then Master Elrond, you will have to lock me in prison or send me home tied in a sack, said Pippin, for otherwise I shall follow the company. Let it be so, then. You shall go, said Elrond. All right, baby, you can have your way. Now the tale of 9 is filled. In 7 days the company must depart. Can we go another 5 minutes since we started so late?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Actually, I want to get to a bit. Damn. Maybe I won't. Oh, well, we'll see. The Sword of Elendil. What?
Well, I was going to say, I don't work today, so I don't have a hard cutoff time. So if you want to go for a little while, that's fine with me.
Yay! There is a certain conversation that I've been dying to read because it's one of my favorites. The Sword of Elendil was forged anew by elvish smiths, and on its blade was traced a device of 7 stars set between the crescent moon and the rayed sun, and about them was written many runes. For Aragorn, son of Arathorn, was going to war upon the marches of Mordor.
That'd be a fun tattoo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. From the book or from the movie?
Well, I don't think it's in the movie, is it? They don't show that device.
No, they really don't. I mean, it might be in the movie, but it's never screen grabbed.
Yeah.
I think Andoril is pretty clean, though. I don't think they did any of this.
Yeah, no, as I recall, the blade's plain. I don't think they did any of the decoration.
Yeah, the moon, the star, the moon, the sun, 7 stars, and
And a bunch
many.
of elf runes.
Oh yeah, very. Hmm?
Oh, I was just thinking about it. Go ahead.
Very bright was that sword when it was made whole again, and the light of the sun shone redly in it, and the light of the moon shone cold, and its edge was hard and keen. Aragorn gave it a new name and called it Andúril, Flame of the West. Aragorn and Gandalf walked together or sat speaking of their road and the perils they would meet, and they pondered the storied and figured maps and books of lore that were in the house of Elrond. Sometimes Frodo was with them, but he was content to lean on their guidance, and he spent as much time as he could with Bilbo. In those last days the hobbits sat together in the evening in the Hall of Fire, and there, among many tales they heard told in full, the lay of Beren and Luthien and the winning of the great jewel. But in the day, while Merry and Pippin were out and about, Frodo and Sam were to be found with Bilbo in his own small room. Then Bilbo would read passages from his book, which still seemed very incomplete, or scraps of his verses, or would take notes of Frodo's adventures. Good mute.
I was like holding my sneeze, trying to get the mouse over the mute button.
On the morning of the last day, Frodo was alone with Bilbo, and the old hobbit pulled out from under his bed a wooden box. He lifted the lid and fumbled inside. "Here is your sword," he said, "but it was broken, you know. I took it to keep it safe, but I've forgotten to ask if the smiths could mend it. No time now. So I thought perhaps you would care to have this, don't you know?" He took from the box a small sword in an old shabby leathern scabbard. Then he drew it, and its polished and well-tended blade glittered suddenly, cold and bright. "This is Sting," he said, and thrust it with little effort deep into a wooden beam. "Take it if you like. I shan't want it again, I expect." So here's an interesting movie factoid. You might already know it, but maybe other people don't. They got someone who spoke Sindarin and could write in Tengwar to do all the inscriptions on the blades. And the blade on Sting is something like "Sting is my name, I am the spider's bane," which, since it got its name from the fight with the battle in the spiders in Mirkwood, that makes perfect sense for its history, but it's also such a nice way of telegraphing what's going to be accomplished.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's both a statement of history and a prophecy.
Exactly. Do. "Take it if you like. I shan't want it again, I expect." Frodo accepted it gratefully. "Also, there is this," said Bilbo, bringing out a parcel which seemed to be rather heavy for its size. He unwound several folds of old cloth and held up a small shirt of mail. It was close woven of many rings, as supple almost as linen, cold as ice and harder than steel. It shone like moonlit silver and was studded with white gems. With it went a belt of pearl and crystal. "It's a pretty thing, isn't it?" said Bilbo, moving it in the light. "And useful. It is my dwarf mail that Thorin gave me. I got it back from Mishel Delving before I started and packed it with my luggage. I brought all the mementos of my journey away with me, except the ring. But I did not expect to use this, and I don't need it now except to look at sometimes. You hardly feel any weight when you put it on." "I should look Well, I don't think I should look right in it, said Frodo. Just what I said myself, said Bilbo. But never mind about looks. You can wear it under your outer clothes. Come on, you must share this secret with me. Don't tell anybody else, but I should feel happier if I knew you were wearing it. I have a fancy it would turn even the knives of the Black Riders, he ended in a low voice. Very well, I will take it, said Frodo. Bilbo put it on him and fastened Sting upon the glittering belt. And then Frodo put over the top his old weather-stained breeches, tunic, and jacket. Just a plain hobbit you look, said Bilbo, but there is more about you now than appears on the surface. Good luck to you. He turned away and looked out of the window, trying to hum a tune. I cannot thank you as I should, Bilbo, for this and for all your past kindnesses, said Frodo. Don't try, said the old hobbit, turning round and slapping him on the back. Ow! He cried. You are too hard now to slap. But there you are. Hobbits must stick together, and especially Bagginses. All I ask in return is take as much care of yourself as you can, and bring back all the news you can, and any old songs and tales you can come by. I'll do my best to finish my book before you return. I should like to write the second book, if I am spared. He broke off and turned to the window again, singing softly. There's 6 verses here. We'll just do the first and last couple lines. Well, okay, first and last verse. I sit beside the fire and think of all that I have seen, of meadow flowers and butterflies in summers that have been, etc. But all the while I sit and think of times there were before. I listen for returning feet and voices at the door. It was a cold grey day near the end of December. The east wind was streaming through the bare branches of the trees and seething in the dark pines on the hills. Ragged clouds were hurrying overhead, dark and low. As the cheerless shadows of the early evening began to fall, the company made ready to set out. They were to start... What?
Oh, I'm about to get ruled.
Yeah. They were to start at dusk, for Elrond counseled them to journey under cover of night as often as they could, until they were far from Rivendell. You should fear the many eyes of the servants of Sauron, he said. I do not doubt that news of the discomfiture of the riders had already reached him, and he will be filled with wrath. Soon now his spies on foot and wing will be abroad in the northern lands. Even of the sky above you must beware as you go on your way. The company took little gear of war, for their hope was in secrecy, not in battle. Aragorn had Anduril, but no other weapon, and he went forth clad only in rusty green and brown as a ranger of the wilderness. Boromir had a long sword, in fashion like Anduril, but of less lineage, and he bore also a shield and his war horn. Loud and clear it sounds in the valleys of the hills, he said, and then let all the foes of Gondor flee. Putting it to his lips, he blew a blast, and the echoes leaped from rock to rock, and all that heard that voice in Rivendell sprang to their feet. Way to go.
Yeah, someone needs to explain to Boromir the concept of stealth.
Stealth is a thing. Slow should you be to wind that horn again, Boromir, said Elrond, until you stand once more on the borders of your land and dire need is on you. Maybe, said Boromir, but always I have let my horn cry at setting forth, and though thereafter we may walk in the shadows, I will not go forth as a thief in the night.
You need to get over yourself, bro.
Gimli the dwarf alone wore openly a short shirt of steel rings, for dwarfs make light of burdens, and in his belt was a broad-bladed axe. Legolas had a bow and a quiver, and at his belt a long white knife. The younger hobbits wore the swords that they had taken from the barrow, but Frodo took only Sting, and his mail coat, as Bilbo wished, remained hidden. Gandalf bore his staff, but girt at his side was the elven sword Glamdring, the mate of Orcrist, that lay now upon the breast of Thorin under the lonely mountain. All were well furnished by Elrond with thick, warm clothes, and they had jackets and cloaks lined with fur. Spare food and clothes and blankets and other needs were laden on a pony, none other than the poor beasts they had brought from Bree. The stay in Rivendell had worked a great wonder of change on him. He was glossy and seemed to have the vigor of youth. It was Sam who had insisted on choosing him, declaring that Bill, as he called him, would pine if he did not come.
Bill the pony!
Bill the pony! To name someone after their abuser is actually kind of a badass move.
I mean, it really depends on the person, or in this case, pony. But I feel like Bill the pony is into that.
Absolutely. There's a power you take from someone if you take their name. And then you imbue it with meanings that they never intended, and then they have no power to take the joy away from you. It's like psychologically pretty powerful, even if Sam had no idea. Anyway, that animal can nearly talk, he said, and would talk if he stayed here much longer. He gave me a look as plain as Mr. Pippin could speak it. If you don't let me go with you, Sam, I'll follow on my own. So Bill was going as the beast of burden, yet he was the only member of the company that did not seem depressed. Their farewells had been said in the great hall by the fire, and they were only waiting now for Gandalf, who had not yet come out of the house. A gleam of firelight came from the open doors, and soft lights were glowing in many windows. Bilbo, huddled in a cloak, stood silent on the doorstep beside Frodo. Aragorn sat with his head bowed to his knees. Only Elrond knew fully what this hour meant to him. The others could be seen as grey shapes in the darkness. Sam was standing by the pony, sucking his teeth and staring moodily into the gloom where the river roared stonily below. His desire for adventure was at its lowest ebb. "Bill, my lad," he said, "you oughtn't to have took up with us. You could have stayed here and ate the best hay till the new grass comes." Bill swished his tail and said nothing. Sam eased the pack on his shoulders and went over anxiously in his mind all the things that he had stowed in it, wondering if he had forgotten anything. His chief treasure, his cooking gear, and a little box of salt that he always carried and refilled when he could. A good supply of pipeweed, but not near enough, I'll warrant. Flint and tinder, woolen hose, linen, various small belongings of his master's that Frodo had forgotten and Sam had stowed to bring them out in triumph when they were called for. That says so much about Sam right there.
Mm-hmm.
He went through them all. "Rope," he muttered. "No rope. And only last night you said to yourself, 'Sam, what about a bit of rope? You'll want it if you haven't got it.' Well, I'll want it. Can't get it now." At that moment, Elrond came out with Gandalf, and he called the company to him. "This is my last word," he said in a low voice. "The ring-bearer is setting out on the quest of Mount Doom. On him alone is any charge laid, neither to cast away the ring, nor to deliver it to any servant of the enemy, nor, indeed, to let any handle it, save members of the company and the council, and only then in gravest need. The others go with him as free companions to help him on his way. You may tarry, or come back, or turn aside into other paths as chance allows. The further you go, the less easy will it be to withdraw. Yet no oath or bond is laid on you to go further than you will. For you do not yet know the strength of your hearts, and you cannot foresee what each may meet upon the road. Faithless is he that says farewell when the road darkens, said Gimli. Maybe, said Elrond, but let him not vow to walk in the dark who has not seen the nightfall. Yet sworn word may strengthen quaking heart, said Gimli. Or break it, said Elrond. I fucking love that exchange. I forgive all of the dragging of the plot because those conversations come up and you're like, wow. Yeah. Look not too far ahead, but go now with good hearts. Farewell, and may the blessing of elves and men and all free folk go with you. May the stars shine upon your faces. Good luck, cried Bilbo, stuttering with the cold. I don't suppose you will be able to keep a diary, Frodo, my lad, but I shall expect a full account when you get back. And don't be too long. Farewell. I'm stopping there. I've got shit to do.
That is entirely fair. I may have fucked something up in my knitting, so this is a good time for me to stop also.
Yep. I will see you on Wednesday.
Yes, indeed.
I'll try to spread the word now that we have an actual schedule so that people who want to join us can.
I think we're getting more people watching after just because we have to do it in the middle of the day.
Right? People work.
Yeah.
I love you.
Love you too.
Cuidado.
Llamas.